which is RU23/0544, the Field Nursery, Brocks Lane, Ottershaw. First application will be presented by Victoria Gibson.
Thank you, Chairman. This is an application at Field Nursery, Brocks Lane, Ottershaw, and it's for the construction of 13 houses and 6 apartments. This slide shows the outline of the site and how the access, once developed, how it will be accessed from Brocks Road. This shows the proposed layout. It is important to note that this site forms the last part of a site allocation. That site allocation, the policy SL12, that allocation stated that we should have a minimum of 200 units on the combined site. The proposed total that we have now is 203, so very, very close to the minimum number that was stated in that policy to be provided. This shows the layout, the areas of open space, and how there is a spacious development with plenty of landscaping opportunities. This is the apartment block, 2 stories with rooms in the roof. We have 4 2-bed properties and 2 1-bed properties. And that's the elevation of the apartment block. The next slides will just show you a flavour of the type of house types that are coming forward. We have 3 and 4 bed houses, all of a similar material palette, good quality materials, tying them all together. This is a street scene, so you can see how the heights, the apartment block is the highest, then we have the semi-detached that drop down, and then to our houses. So there's no sudden height increase. It flows along that street scene. And to the bottom, that shows a selection of the houses to the east of the site. So this is the site photographs at the moment. This is the existing dwelling on the site. And these are views from within it. It is interesting to note that there is ancient woodland adjacent to the site. This development does propose a 15-metre buffer. Currently on the site we do have a selection of buildings that are within root protection areas and within that buffer. The buffer will then be managed by the management company, so this is seen as a real positive of the scheme as well. So again, just a selection of buildings, and we'll finish on this slide. So for all the reasons contained in the officer report, this scheme is recommended for approval. It is considered to be a high quality scheme with landscaping opportunities. The car parking all complies with our standards. There is an addendum to this, and a point of clarification I need to make. The Ottershaw Neighbourhood Forum has objected to this proposal, and the reasons that they're objecting have been covered in the officer report, but they have been listed again in the addendum, just so members are completely aware of what their concerns are. The drainage officer, council's drainage officer, has now withdrawn their objection. The Local Lead Flood Authority raises no objection, and that was due to some additional information being submitted. In fact, there's a real benefit now for the runoff rates of this site. There are some additional conditions. We have added a construction management plan. We have added a condition to stop up the vehicular access onto Brocks Lane prior to occupation, and we have amended a tree condition to include British standards, and also an informative to include fence and boundary installation to allow for the movement of small animals across the site. That concludes the presentation. Thank you, Chair.
do have public speaking. For the objector, we have Mr. Jim Nichol of Ottershaw Neighbourhood Forum, and we have for the applicant Wesley McCarthy, who's the agent for Nicholas King Homes. The objector and the applicant will have 5 minutes and will be notified after 4.5 minutes to allow them to sum up. The objector shall go first. So, Mr. Nichol, if you could come to the seat and make yourself comfortable, and as soon as you're ready, we start.
Good evening, and thank you, Chairman, for permitting me to speak. I'm here tonight as Chairman of Brox Lane Residents Association and a member of the Ottershaw Neighbourhood Forum. I am not here tonight to request a refusal for the application of this application. The fate of the Field Nursery was decided before your local plan 2030 was adopted, when the land was removed from the green belt. It's the detail of this application and from the examination of your officer's report in tonight's agenda, which has raised widespread concern in the community. Brox Lane is a sleepy public footpath and private road access to a few houses and a couple of small businesses. It's not made up and a single lane, very bendy track. The use of the lane has not changed for many years. The Field Nursery makes little commercial use of the lane, with a single small truck slowly leaving and then returning daily, once a day. There is no retail business conducted on the site. The residents' main concern with this application is that it should allow them and the frequent public footpath walkers to continue their safe enjoyment and way of life. However, it's now become clear that whilst the applicant stated there would be a new access through Brox End Nursery and that the existing gate will be stopped up, the applicant's intention is to use Brox Lane for access for demolition and construction of 19 homes before the gate is stopped up. This is unacceptable to the residents and for a number of reasons. Number one, the lane is very narrow and bendy. It is not constructed to take weight or volume of traffic. Damage to residents' vehicles and the drainage ditches is inevitable. Number two, there will be considerable risk to public safety to both walkers and residents. Number three, Brox Lane is a private road and an increase in the burden on the lane is not permissible by law, civil law, without explicit consent of the owners, which are the residents. It's inevitable that construction traffic will increase the burden significantly. Regarding safety, I wonder if SEC Highways was misled, as we were, into believing the existing gate will be stopped up and all access will be via the new access road, and hence they saw no objection with respect to safety. Perhaps tonight you should consider voting for a deferment on decision to allow time for Highways to be reconsulted with the truth and for owners of Brox Lane to discuss legal aspects with the applicant. Residents are ready with a barrister's opinion that the proposed use of Brox Lane would be illegal, and we are ready to test that in the civil courts. Case law exists which favours our view. We have a very strong legal case and we will use it. Unfortunately, the addendum before you now does not help our positions regarding safety and access routing. We are grateful for the officer's attention towards improving their recommendation by way of the addendum and regret it had to be at such late notice. Unfortunately, it fails to address the construction access issues and this will result in stalemate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nichol. Can I invite you, Mr. McCarthy, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for giving me the opportunity to address the members of the committee tonight. We have worked with your officers and their colleagues at the Surrey County Council since the submission of the pre-application in August last year. Members will see in section 6 that there are no objections from any of the consultees. Your officer confirms in paragraph 7.2 of the committee report that the principle of development has been established through the adoption of the local plan. The application site represents a very small portion of the allocated site known as Ottershaw East in accordance with policy SL12 of the local plan. It is also confirmed in the report that the density of the application site is below the predicted density for the whole of Ottershaw East site. The housing delivery on the application site is therefore necessary in order to meet the policy's minimum housing requirement of 200 dwellings. The proposed development will make all the required Section 106 contributions, as confirmed in the officer's recommendation. It will also deliver additional planning gain and improvement for the existing residents by removing the commercial traffic from Brox Lane associated with the nursery. Additionally, the proposal will also deliver 10.3% of energy requirement through the development by means of renewable energy, nearly 15% biodiversity net gain on site, a reduction in surface water runoff from 44 litres a second to 1.3 litres a second, policy compliant affordable housing provision. The committee report confirms that the site is being enhanced through the creation of a attenuation pond, neutral grassland, the creation of and enhancement of native species, hedgerow and scrub habitat. The development will result in the removal of the nursery buildings, hard standings and open storage, which are in close proximity to the ancient woodland and will be replaced with a wildflower meadow. We are aware of the concerns raised by the residents of Brox Lane, and we are therefore agreed to the additional and amended conditions as outlined in the addendum sheet, including the submission of a pre- and post-condition survey of Brox Lane. The traffic in Brox Lane associated with the application site will be permanently removed prior to the occupation of the dwellings by stopping up the access. The proposal before members needs to be considered in terms of the material planning considerations that have been presented in the officer's committee report and not on civil matters. The officer concludes that the application is considered acceptable in principle, provides an appropriate quantum of development and affordable housing, secures high quality design and provides a good standard of amenity for the existing and future residents. The officer also confirms that the proposed development will have an acceptable impact on the local and the wider road network, with no objection from the local highway authority. Most importantly, your officer confirms that the proposed development does not result in any harm that would justify the refusal of this application. We obviously agree with your officer's assessment of the application and therefore kindly request that you support your officer's recommendation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. McCarthy. Thank you, Mr. Neville. Thank you very much. Okay. Members, you've heard from our case officer and tonight's speakers. I now throw it over to the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Well, all in all, I mean, it looks good. I mean, there's no major concerns with regards to the houses or the construction or anything else. I've just got a few things. I hope that RBC's drainage and the League Local Flood Authority are right, because that place does get quite flooded. I fish on the lake next door, so I do know it's one of the lowest places in Ottershaw, so I do hope that they are right with it. With regards to the lighting, and I know that's still going to go back to Surrey Wildlife, I don't think 5-metre lights up in that development are appropriate due to the bats and the owls and everything we have around the lake next door to it. And at A2D we did have the 1.5 bollards that was changed to because they also had these huge street lights in there that was changed. So hopefully that will be changed going forward. So that is one of the issues I do have. I just want to make sure that we're not going to get any more breakthrough on any of the hedges. We've got 2 foot pods there, and we've got a lot of hedging around. So I don't know if there's any conditions or anything we can put in to make sure that there's no breakthrough from that site, other than those current foot pods that we have here. Do you want me to carry on?
Do you want to carry on with that?
I'll carry on. The only issue I do also have is the issue with Brock's Lane. I know it's a civil matter, but I mean, I go down there, my kids ride down there. It's very narrow. The first 200 yards of that road is 2-way, and after that it turns into a single path that's dirt road. I don't know if it could, when it gets wet down there, and we have a lot of water down there, I don't know if you could handle the size of the trucks that are going to go in and out of there, and the damage it's going to cause to that road. And the safety issues. You've got people who are walking right out onto Brock's Lane, on that corner where the entrance to that site is. That's a safety issue. You know, people are walking their dogs, riding. You've got the guys that are going up there to fish, and they come past on their bicycles with all their fishing stuff. So I have a concern with that. All right. I'm going to keep quiet now and let other people speak, and I'll come back at the end. Just thank you.
I'll go first, and Vicky's going to follow up with other issues. So, as Councillor Mann has identified, the issue of Brock's Lane is a civil matter. It's much the same as other things that we can't really take into account. You know, if there were covenants on the land that said, you know, no houses, we can still award planning permission. Simply maybe the permission's unimplementable. We can award planning permission for this. It can have the intention to use Brock's Lane. It's entirely possible that the residents of Brock's Lane may be able to prevent this route being used, in which case the developer will have to try and find a different way to access the site for purposes of construction, but that's their problem, not the problem of the local planning authority. And so, unfortunately, there may be civil recourse for the residents who live down there, but that's not a matter for us as the planning authority to get involved in. Vicky, do you want to pick up the hedgerow issues and the lighting?
So we start first on the drainage, I think you raised. And amended plans have been submitted. Both the locally flood authority and our drainage consultant here in Runnymede Council raised no objection. And actually, this site will really benefit the runoff flows, and what they're being reduced to on this site are very close to greenfield runoff rates. This isn't a greenfield site, but the rates will be very close to that. If you look at the conditions as well, there is a condition about a verification report to make sure that the drainage scheme has been implemented in accordance with the plans and is working. So I really do feel we've done quite a belt and braces job on that. With regard to lighting, Surrey Wildlife have been very clear in their consultation response that they need a sensitive lighting scheme because of the ecological impacts that can have. Any scheme will first have to go to them. It could be that we end up with 1.5. We'll have to wait and see what they say. But any lighting scheme is still to be confirmed, and Surrey Wildlife will be consulted on that. So it will be sensitively designed. And that's covered by condition 12. And then with the hedgerow breakthrough, you're right, the hedgerows and adjacent to the public footpaths are important, and they're important that they're retained. They're important to the character and appearance of the area. The scheme does have to be carried out in accordance with the approved plans. A landscaping scheme is still to be agreed, and therefore officers don't consider that that's a risk.
But I would add to that, you can't guarantee landscaping perpetuity. You may be able to guarantee it for 5-10 years, but really, if the concern is access onto that, that's really going to be an issue that's going to be covered off by the rights of way or the rights to pass over that road or not. We can't guarantee landscape permanently, but the planning commission will do its best to retain it in the medium term.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Sylvia White.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, some of my counterpoints, and in particular the access road, I understand it's a civil matter. I just wonder how on earth it's got this to this stage without it actually being resolved. It just seems a rather strange thing that if some developer decided to hook up and use my driveway to access somewhere, I'd certainly be shouting from the rooftops. But I also understand what you just said, it is a civil matter and we can't actually do anything as a local authority. I was quite disappointed that the energy reduction is within policy, but only just 10.27%, and it just seems a bit of a shame that there isn't more that could have been done, but again, it's within policy. And my actual question, now I've got to it, 7.25 talks about early delivery of the A320, and we know that all development in this area relies on early development of the A320, which hasn't yet started. Is there any way we can restrict the number of dwellings being occupied before the A320 is complete? I mean, you might be telling me that we're hoping the A320 will be complete before the dwellings, but we're still waiting for the road construction, and I know we have put restrictions on some of the other developments in this area. Thank you.
No, really is the answer to this for a number of reasons. Firstly, it is a very modest sized development, so we have to impose those kind of restrictions on some larger ones. Secondly, the timelines that the A320 is running on should ensure it's delivered at roughly the same time or ahead of any housing scheme permitted today, so it would really be reasonable and necessary. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Elaine Gill, thought you were in pain then.
I am in pain, but I'll carry on talking. If I scream in the middle with a sciatic nerve, bear with me. In actual fact, one of the points that I wanted to bring up was about the A320, which Councillor White has done, because I know when we were doing the local plan, that was the mitigation on a lot of those developments over that part of the borough. But I appreciate you say it is quite a small development. I think it is a shame that it is a civil matter with the lane. We had a similar thing in our area, but fortunately we got our neighbourhood plan through. My only lesson would be, I wish we'd got some of these plans through perhaps before, and then the policy could have been set in place more, that discussions could have been had. It does seem very late in the day that we're now talking about this, and obviously perhaps there was a misunderstanding between occupation as opposed to prior to construction. That's the only thing. But I do feel, and I just feel for the sake of the people and everyone that perhaps communications could be had, because there is another access route in. It's not as though that is the only one. So there could be some way of overcoming it. But I mean, I've sat in this chamber for many years and seen this site come forward. I think once before, many moons ago, and we were told we weren't maximising the land at that time, and now it has come back with the local plan. And so, as Mr. Nicholas said, the objector, we know that this has all come out of Greenbelt, we know that the development is going ahead, but I just wish that some of the, we perhaps dotted some I's and crossed some T's with the residents before the actual civil case that could perhaps happen with the access at the A320. Well, we should wait and see. Thank you.
No, I'd say it's a very fair summary, and I'd say there isn't an ideal solution really for this site either way. I mean, I accept the annoyance and inconvenience that lots of people on Brooks Lane will be concerned about. At the same time, the other proposed access through is through a relatively narrow new build estate, which will have a lot of new residents on it too. Neither is a perfect solution. It will be up to the developer to work out what the optimum solution is, and that may be informed by the discussions with the people on Brooks Lane. However, as I say, it's simple and not really something we can get involved in. Thank you.
Councillor Teresa Burst.
Thank you. So the positives you mentioned in terms of the protection of the ancient woodland and actually the amount of green space in the site. Everybody's talked about, I have a question. Does Surrey County not look at private lanes when construction traffic plans are coming forward? Oh.
They won't have a preference over public highway or private lane. They simply want to have a route of access to construct on there, and whether or not there is a right to pass over tracks or don't necessarily have a good connection legally to the network. It's not something that Surrey would have a particular view on. It's simply issues that the developer will have to find a route in. Thank you, Shirley.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, no, just thank you for that point of clarification. The agent mentioned something about a pre and post survey, but I don't. Which condition is that relating to?
So in the addendum, as a sign of good faith, the applicant has put forward that they will undertake a condition survey of Brox Lane, if that is the route that's used, which will basically be able to take a survey and photograph the lane and make good any harm that they do to the lane. So I believe that is to give some surety that they will be responsible and there will be a record of what they've done. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, I just found it now. It's 16 H. So yeah, sorry, I thought it was under 17. That's why I was missing it. And then just a final comment. Obviously, it's unfortunate that that this site, which has been overall site, has been allocated, that it's coming forward piecemeal, because and by 2 different or 3 different developers. So we have these issues in other sites as well. And it's unfortunate because actually, if the other site would at least provide the route of access for the other developer, then the residents wouldn't have to suffer. I appreciate that's a commercial and private civil matter, but thank you.
Councillor Alex Fogg.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm interested in picking up from Mr. Nicole's concerns about the burden on the road and caused by construction as well. I'm interested to know what value there would be in asking Surrey Highways to relook at the impact. I'm just curious to know if we said to them, residents believe there's a serious problem, can you look into this? Do you think they would give us a review? That's what I'm looking for.
My honest answer is there's no value to asking Surrey about it. The condition of the road and the wear and tear that could occur on that road is a private civil matter, as all parties have recognised here. The offer, obviously, to do a condition survey and take a record on the condition of the road and look at anything that happens is obviously a very positive step. Whether or not that will be sufficient enough for the residents of Brox Lane is an entirely different matter. If it's not, then everyone has to look at their options, or the developer and the resident parties will have to have a frank discussion or a legal discussion, but it's not something from a planning point of view that we give weight to, and the local highway authority will be considering this as a planning matter rather than as a legal entity, so there's no real weight in, no real benefit in going back to them. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Chair. It's a difficult one, this, and I have to agree with Councillor Gill that it would have been good to have more consultation and more information and more conversations. Is there no way that we can defer this to the next planning application, to the next planning meeting, sorry, so that we can, like Alex said, get Surrey County Council or Highways in to do another survey of that and have a look at the lane itself, and possibly to also let the residents and the developer have some discussion and come to maybe we get a resolution between the applicant and the residents, so that we can get clarification on whether they can actually get another entrance into the site.
No, to be honest, is my answer, because as I said, this isn't material to the determination of the planning application, and therefore to defer it wouldn't be for material planning reason. We would, as I said to Councillor Balkan, not really get anything useful out of Surrey as a highway authority, because they can't comment on the maintenance or quality of a private road or the rights to pass over it, so we get nothing useful out of Surrey as a highway authority. To be honest, I think it's unlikely that you get any there's no requirement for there to be a resolution between the developer and the residents before planning permission is granted. It's not a material planning consideration, and therefore we shouldn't be deferring, as it's not material to
Thank you, Chair. I wasn't going to comment too much on this application. I'm looking specifically at the additional conditions. I too know Rocks Lane well, having walked at that lane in the context of another planning application that this committee has considered. And I think it's a great shame that we are in a position where that lane is under threat by heavy-duty vehicles over an extended period. I recognise that the applicant and the objectives are both here this evening. I'm concerned that this matter might end up in the court, which is not what we want to see, but I would urge both parties to come together to look for a practical and sensible solution to this. Those are my thoughts and my concerns. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Halley. Sorry, Councillor Singh.
Firstly, thank you for the wonderful presentation and all the hard work you guys have done. Two-part question. The first one, we approve this today, for example, it goes ahead. Like the gentleman said, with public speaking, they will go ahead with, to the court and challenge this. They go to the court, they win. They block the access. What happens next?
Any question two?
Question two is more of a comment, but yeah. So,
Okay, so to say on there, I mean, as a planning authority, we can't take into account those private, legal, civil matters that are there. If the residents were successful in blocking the use of construction traffic, which there's no guarantee there will be, there may well be. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not advising in a legal capacity. Then the developer would have to assess their options, which could be to try to find another way into the site. It could be to come to a different arrangement with the residents of Rocks Lane, but at the end of the day, it's their problem, not the problem of the local planning authority. In the worst case scenario, the development might not go ahead if there was no way to get in there. However, there are a lot of ways into this site potentially, so you think a solution going forward. So,
and my comment would be, I would probably ask both parties to work together and come to a solution. I think it's a really good idea. It looks really good on the map. There's a lot of greenery, which is important. It's not a huge development. If this was 50 or 100 dwellings, then yeah, I think I would object to it, but 19 is not too bad, and as we know, we do need housing and accomplish some of our tasks as well. So, suggestion would be work together, and I think it's a pretty good idea.
thank you, Councillor Singh. We will also push that message that we want the developers and our residents to work together, and Ottershaw have given clear views that they are willing to work with developers who are willing to meet them halfway. So I very much encourage the applicant to engage with the group. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. I see no more lights, so I'll ask Coleman to propose a recommendation, please.
Okay, the HOP is authorised to grant planning consent subject to a 106 legal agreement, conditions 1 to 17 and informatives. In addition, I refer to the addendum notes received today. Do I have a seconder?
I can second that.
Okay. So, all those in favour